City of Maplewood Planning Commission meeting will come to order at 7:12 p.m. Roll call.
Alan Egan, present.
Bill Kempe here.
Tushar Desai here.
Fred Don here.
Lou Yang here.
John Eads here.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, that is approval of our agenda. Any additions, changes to the agenda?
Chair and Commission, yes, staff would propose to remove 6A, conducting city business and public meetings presentation. That is an item that City Manager Melinda Coleman will be visiting. She wanted to come to both the CDRB and Planning Commission. We're hoping to do that the same night. And with our number of items tonight, we felt that we'll hold off to one of our meetings later this summer to
Okay.
invite Manager Coleman back.
Okay, sounds good. Are there any other changes? Hearing none, is there a move to
Move
approve?
to approve.
Second.
We've got Bill proposing it and Alan seconded. All those in favor of accepting the changes?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
I have abstained because.
One
of absence.
abstain. Motion is moved.
The agenda.
Why are you abstaining?
He was not there, but he could have still approved it, but,
Chair,
Well, you can approve the agenda.
Commission,
Yeah.
we're on the agenda.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, you can approve the agenda. That's all right. You approve though, right? Okay, so we'll have all approved.
Thank you.
Approval of minutes. Any changes to the minutes from last meeting, members? Any changes?
No.
None? Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Bill moves. Any seconds?
Second.
Alan seconds. Any other comments? None? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All ayes. Okay, item number 5 is public hearing, 5A at 7 p.m. or later, public vacation resolution 2182 Van Dyke Street North. Go ahead, Mike.
Chair and Commission, thank you. Tonight, we are looking at a request for public vacation of a right-of-way. The right-of-way area that is being proposed to vacate is shown on this map on the overhead. It's also attachment 1 within your staff report, or, I'm sorry, attachment 2, the overview map. This right-of-way is the Sandhurst Street right-of-way, and it's east of Van Dyke Street, and the applicant is proposing that the entire right-of-way that exists today would be vacated and returned to the properties to the north and south of which that right-of-way was obtained from. I will point out before the meeting, I did hand out an additional letter. It's the only letter that we received from an immediate neighbor, and this is someone that did initially sign the petition indicating support, and with this letter, she is withdrawing that support. Ms. Erler has a property that's to the south, or I'm sorry, directly to the east, but that southeast corner of the vacated area. You can see her pool area here, but this is her parcel then that fronts Hazel Street further to the east. As far as process, the applicant is required to submit that said petition form from neighbors adjacent to the vacation request. If a majority of the abutting property owners sign that petition, the city council may approve the vacation by a simple majority vote, so 3 out of 5. Without this petition or without a majority, the council can still approve that vacation with at least 4 of the 5 or a supermajority voting to approve the vacation. So it is not needed to have 100% unanimous support of the vacation request for the city council to ultimately approve it. In staff's review, there is an existing gravel driveway that lies within the Sandhurst Avenue right-of-way, accessing the property at 2194 Van Dyke Street. If the vacation is approved, so we're talking right in this northwest corner, If the vacation is approved, again, essentially that right-of-way divides in half and gets returned to the north and south sides of those properties, and then that existing gravel driveway then would encroach on property that now would be attached to 2182. So staff is recommending, if the vacation is approved, that the applicant be required to either correct the issue by removing the driveway, or before the vacation is ultimately recorded, the applicant would be required to show how this encroachment is corrected via an access agreement between the two properties. So with that, staff has reviewed the vacation request. There is no public need for this right-of-way, and the Public Works Department has reviewed that. There is no future planned improvements or streets within this right-of-way area, so the Public Works staff is supportive of the vacation moving forward. So staff is, again, recommending approval, can answer any questions. I believe the applicant is here, and then also this is a public hearing that the Planning Commission wanted to open up for general comment tonight. Thank you.
Staff, I have a question regarding this letter that you just handed out. I'm not familiar with that land right behind them of this lady who says that there is a steep incline and there is no outlet. Doesn't quite make sense to me. So is there any more elaboration on it or explanation?
Chair and Commission, and if, I don't know for sure if the author of this letter is here tonight. We did speak and say, come to the meeting, please. But there is a distinct drop in grade from where the house is on Hazel Street to that backyard, so there is
Okay.
a significant drop. And so her concern is being able to access that property via a public right-of-way. Now, again, there is no improved road or necessarily way to get from Van Dyke to her property today, other than just kind of going through the grassy area that's within the right-of-way.
Okay.
And in the letter, she also did state concerns about drainage of the pool, and then the city code does state, drainage of pools onto public streets or other public drainage ways shall require approval by the appropriate public official. And then, I'm just pulling, and that, I can find the specific language here. To the extent feasible, water from pool drainage shall be on the owner's property or into an approved public drainage way. Such water shall not drain onto adjacent or nearby private land. So again, that's one of her concerns, that if this public right-of-way, which isn't necessarily a public drainage way to begin with, but if this public right-of-way were to go away, would she, if she continued her practice as she does today, now be draining water onto private property, other private property?
Wouldn't she need permission right now because it's,
The Chair and Commission, yes, that's what the code states. I'm
but
willing.
she hasn't been doing it?
We have no record of, but I'm guessing that's not all that uncommon throughout the city, that not everyone
Yeah.
has buttoned up that approval,
Okay.
you know.
Who benefits from this, from the vacation?
Chair and Commission, well, the benefit, if that's the way you want to move forward with it, would be the properties to the north and south that would have additional land. So when the properties were initially platted, that's where that right-of-way came from, were those parcels.
But, so there are homes on 1861, 1863, and 1877 that all abut that right-of-way, correct? So they would all be taking a piece of this right-of-way into their possession,
Chair and Commission, that's correct, and including, there's two parcels on the north,
north.
and then 2182, which is the original requester off Van Dyke, which is also to the south of the existing right-of-way.
But then after 194, I see another plot
Yep.
on that kitty corner there that also would be getting a piece of that land, and so would the person who has pulled their name from the petition, because they also would be abutting that right-of-way.
Chair and Commission, so the application process does require that all properties abutting are considered for the petition purposes.
Right.
But that property that we received the letter from would not receive any additional land through this vacation.
Okay, but she's abutting that property though.
Correct, Chair and Commission.
That makes it very interesting.
On the property at 2194 Van Dyke, looks like the north end of the property there, looks like an alleyway on the north end. Is that correct?
No, Chair and Commission, no, there's not
Right.
an alley right-of-way north of the site. There's private property line meets up to private property line.
Okay, well, underneath the magenta of the lot boundaries on this map, it looks like it is bare, it looks like pavement or something to me.
Chair and Commission, one thing to keep in mind, so when we have an aerial matched up against property lines and all this data is maintained by Ramsey County, they don't always
Right.
align exactly. So these aren't
Yeah.
meant to be taken as like a survey
Okay.
when you look at those over aerial photos.
Right.
What I'm looking at is what appears to be a fence. There is a grade change to the south, or I'm sorry, to the east of the site. So I think you're just seeing variation in the property.
Okay. I was just thinking maybe that was another point of access for 2194. Looks like it's not. So I withdraw my concern.
Sure.
Any other questions? I'll open it up we'll open up the public hearing. Person that requested this vacation, if they can come up to the podium and identify yourself.
I'm Ron Launderville. I'm Polly Hardwick's neighbor at 2194. She was unable to attend tonight, so I'm here on her behalf.
Okay, if you can write your name down in the presentation, please. Has any discussions been had with the city or your neighbors regarding this encroachment of the gravel driveway discussion?
Just the discussions that we'd have, we'd like to be able to acquire the additional square footage and fence and secure our properties to cut back on the neighborhood trespassing from all the kids that are coming up through the property and going up into the backyard and depositing toys and trash and bikes, and the area is full of buckthorn and dead trees, and it's just become a dumping ground that we are all looking to fence, secure, clean up, improve the neighborhood, stop the trespassing, and it's a win-win for all the property owners.
Any
the city.
questions?
Staff, I'm just wondering, when this is taken over, it means that everybody will fence their additional stuff to prevent vandalism or intrusions into those properties, right?
Chair and Commission, if this area is vacated, it would become private real property as any other parcel of land, and they could fence it, use it as, as long as they're meeting other city ordinance requirements. We can see, and this is not, again, uncommon, but even within this right-of-way, property owners are already using portions of the public right-of-way as part of their yard anyway. But yes, if this moved forward and it was ultimately vacated, they could fence it, they could subdivide it in any way that, again, met city ordinances. So the city would lose any controlling interest in this right-of-way.
Any other questions? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward?
Yes, my name is,
If you could please sign in and identify yourself, please.
my name is Cheryl Erler, and I am the one that submitted the withdrawal. And originally, you know, they had come, kind of caught me off guard, so I didn't really have much time to think about it. But after thinking about it and receiving the letter in the mail, I'm the one with the property with the pool, and I haven't been draining the, you know, really my pool water. It's just that's the low area that it all seems to run into that area. And so that's really kind of my concern, and also that it would be the only access for my property, you know, if the right-of-way was vacated. Not that I've ever used it to move in and out, but there's been, there's quite a steep hill from Hazel Street down to Van Dyke, and I have put up a fence, the neighbor has put up a fence where before you could take like a small car or something and drive down the hill. You're no longer able to do that. So that would be, my concern is just not being, I mean, if it was vacated, you would not be able to move, you know, replace the shed, sell the pool. That was something I was thinking about, is getting rid of the pool or selling the pool, that I wouldn't have access, easier access to try to remove that. So that's just why I had submitted my letter.
Yeah. Any questions for Ms. Erler? Just a comment I would have is the condition as it is of this right-of-way, likely you can't have access from that end anyhow.
Correct. You'd
To your lot.
have to create your own path through.
Right. So I don't know if that value is there, but yes, you do have a challenge that if you were to drain your swimming pool and it goes into the neighbor's property now, you'd have to take permission from them for draining, drainage going there at that
Yeah.
point. So that's definitely a question for you to sort out, it looks like.
Yep.
Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this subject matter before we close the public hearing? Okay, seeing no one, public hearing for public vacation for Van Dyke Street North is closed. Members, any more comments, discussions to be had on this subject matter? Any questions that can be answered by the staff? No? Okay. So is there a motion on this request?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the attached public right-of-way vacation resolution for the unused St. Paul Street right-of-way east of Van Dyke Street North.
Alan has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of approving it as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? All ayes, motion approved. Just so you folks know, this thing is not completely approved by the planning commission. It's gonna be going to city council for final approval. When will that be?
Chair and Commission, June 10th.
June 10th, okay. Okay, thank you. Public hearing 5B, 7 PM or later, conditional use permit, resolution, Maplewood Moose Lodge, 3033 Hazelwood Street North. Staff report, please.
Sure. Thank you, Chair and Commission. Again, we're looking at 3033 Hazelwood Street North. This parcel is located on the intersection of Hazelwood Street and County Road D East. Is currently a vacant piece of property. This existing parcel is a remnant of a larger parcel that existed before the County Road D East road project, and where County Road D was rerouted essentially through the north half of the previous parcel. The Moose Lodge, who is the applicant, does own this parcel, and they're proposing a new lodge building, and to move forward with that request, they need city council approval of a conditional use permit and design review. Tonight, we're, as the Planning Commission, focusing on the conditional use permit aspect. The Community Design Review Board met earlier this evening and did review the design and did ultimately recommend approval of that design with some staff, or some conditions of approval that staff will be following up on with the applicant prior to city council review, again, tentatively scheduled for June 10th. This site is guided industrial by the city's comprehensive plan and zone light manufacturing, M1 zoning district. And as a caveat to the zoning district, all permitted and conditional uses in the business commercial district are also allowed within the M1 district. So there's two clauses that really trigger the CUP review that's before you tonight. Within the M1 district, no building is allowed to be constructed within 350 feet of a residential district without a conditional use permit. To the south and to the east of this site are properties that are zoned planned unit development and are residential in nature. So that clause is triggered. In the business commercial district, places of amusement, recreation, and assembly also require a conditional use permit. Want to point out that there's 3 easements that in particular really constrain this site as far as how it's designed and how it can ultimately be utilized moving forward. These 3 easements are in addition to your typical drainage and utility easements that you'd see around the perimeter of a property. On this property, the south to almost 225 feet have an easement for a high-tension power line. That easement does not go all the way to the southern property line. It's about 30 feet off of that property line, but again, it's that much of that south half of the parcel. Within that easement, there are 2 additional easements, a 100-foot electrical easement and a 50-foot pipeline easement. So I just want to make sure we're understanding where those easements are located as we look forward to the site plan review and of this project. The Moose Lodge in the staff report, these are the hours they indicated to staff. They would be looking to operate out of this site, so Monday through Friday, 9 in the morning till 10:30 at night, Saturday, 10 a.m., 11 to 11 p.m., and then on Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. They do operate horseshoes. You see those pits to the proposed to the west of the building. They run leagues or internal use of horseshoes from June to August, and I said internal, but that's external to the building itself, and those would typically operate 6 to 9 in the evening. They have a membership of more than 500 members, though the Moose Lodge did indicate they average about 25 people stopping in on a Friday night, so it gives you some context of what type of use to expect. They are meeting the parking requirements for this site, but with the conditional use permit, staff is recommending that the applicant be required to submit a revised site plan showing proof of parking. So if parking does develop to be an issue on this site, the city would have the ability to add extra parking at the applicant's cost to meet any future parking needs if that demand is created. And also within the conditional use permit, staff is recommending outdoor activities be prohibited after 9 p.m. Want to give some context to setbacks, and I'll go through this quick. All these numbers were detailed in your staff report as well. This image, which is from a little different angle, it's not directly overhead, but it gives you a feel for the residential properties, the Cardinal Point to the south, the detached townhomes to the southeast, and then the new apartment building to the east. And also you can see on this image the electrical and high power tension lines that do affect this site on its south half. So the lodge itself, that proposed building would be set back from the south property line 245 feet. Then it would be set back 42 feet from the east property line. The building, from building to building, it would be 445 to Cardinal Point, again to the south, 259 feet to cottages at Legacy, so we're measuring to this red townhome that's right here, and then 3 feet to Conifer Ridge, the new apartment buildings that are directly to the east. The parking lot, which is located on the site plan to the south of the building, would be 102 feet from the south property line and 42 feet from the east property line. So again, from the parking lot to building, we're looking at 350 feet from Cardinal Point, 92 feet to the cottages to the southeast, and 165 feet to Conifer Ridge directly to the east. I'll just go through this. This is, we're giving the same presentation to both CDRB and Planning Commission, so we're operating on the same base of information. The building itself would be 19 feet tall. All 4 elevations are proposed to be finished with texture wall panels, stone veneer, and metal roof system. Staff did recommend in the staff report additional architectural elements be added to the north elevation, and the CDRB did concur and worked with, during the meeting with the applicant on creating some ideas and pathways for that north elevation that will be further reviewed prior to the city council meeting. But ultimately, design, along with the conditional use permit, are at the city council's review status when it gets to their meeting. The landscape plan, the applicant's proposing several shrubs throughout the site in addition to trees as well. And so staff is recommending from a screening point of view that additional conifer trees be added to the east side of the site, or east side of the building, southeast side of the building, and the south property line to provide screening. Again, we'd be looking to meet the ordinance requirements of 80% opaqueness and 6 feet tall screening on day of occupation. We're also, from the staff level, proposing a screening fence directly south of the parking lot to prohibit any potential headlight glare that could potentially spill into the nearby residential buildings. And this was another point, the plantings north of the building where the infiltration bays in the CDRB talked about this as well at their meeting earlier this evening, and concurred with staff that additional detail and plantings need to be submitted to city staff for approval before the project could move ahead. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting. They sent notices of this neighborhood meeting to the surrounding 165 property owners. The applicant has indicated that no one was able or did show up to that meeting that night. Staff then sent its neighborhood surveys and public hearing notices to those same property owners. With the additional 3 letters you received tonight that I handed out, we are at 21 comments. The additional 3 letters that I received since your report was mailed will be included with the staff report to City Council. So these are the letters that were handed out. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit with the conditions that are outlined in your staff report. That is letter A on page 1 of the staff report when you get to the point of considering a motion for tonight. As a reminder, this is a public hearing, so the Planning Commission will be opening that here in a minute or so. The applicant is present for any questions the commission may have, and staff is also available. Thank you.
Any questions of the staff?
I do have one question. What usually happens with, there's the big power line right where the building seems to be going? What usually happens with that?
Chair and Commission, so the building itself is outside of the easements areas, and so that would be a requirement of the easements themselves. As part of the conditions of approval, staff is recommending that the applicant provide the city written documentation from the easement holders that have reviewed and approved all the plan improvements that would occur, so the parking lot, any plantings within their easement areas. So we'd want to make sure before the city would issue a grading permit or a building permit that we have documentation that easement holders have given their sign off on the planned improvements.
Staff, which zoning map are we using here? Which comprehensive plan map? Because I have a question, I'm just curious on whether this was zoned light industrial because of all the easements, opposed to being residential, high-density residential, like all the surrounding area?
Chair and Commission, no, the history, and so we're still under the 2030 comprehensive plan, so that's what's being represented here. So
Okay.
this is not a change that's been made. In fact, if you go through the history, this site has always been, have an industrial type guidance, and that it's actually the residential properties that, as they were developed, that changed the comprehensive plan to more residential in nature.
That answered my question. Thank you, Mike.
Any other questions? Barring no questions, I will open up the public hearing to the public. Is there a representative for the Moose Lodge that would like to come up? If you could please come up, identify yourself, sign in.
I'm Gary Leonard. I'm the administrator at the Moose Lodge. We've been in Maplewood in 1946 English since 1964. I've been there 5 years. We've had 2 police calls, and they were both for medical emergencies. We aren't a open all night type of bar. We're a family center. We raise money for the little kids of Moose Heart, Indiana, and there's retired people in Florida we send money to. We're a nonprofit. We're a fraternal organization. You need to be a member to come in. So it's not an open to the public type of deal where you're gonna have, myth incidents. That it ain't gonna happen.
Any questions for Mr. Leonard? None?
One,
Go ahead.
in regards to the literature, it was talked frequently about this being a community enhancement for the community, but you're a fraternal organization, so you do have to be a member. You do have to be a member, so that.
Well, Moose International gives us Heart of the Community points if we open up our facility for, different events. If you're not a member, you cannot purchase liquor on our site, but we sure have the hall space. We let people do them for. We have a songwriter group that meets on Saturdays, acoustic people. We do stuff for the Johnson hockey program, North St. Paul hockey program. We have a Sunday polka dance for the elderly. So
So you're doing a lot of community-related activities at
Correct.
the Moose Lodge?
Correct.
It's just that liquor is reserved for the members only?
it's just for the administrator.
That would be even better for you, right?
So how often do you have outside events?
In a month, the most I've ever had is 7 probably. We try to keep it to 1 a week, maybe 2 a week. And they're not really big events. People just need a meeting place. We'll let the graduates from Johnson High School come and make their farewell posters. It's just a large area for people to get together and, meet and do crafts or whatever they want to do,
So you
And everything has to be called ahead and booked, and we choose who we let in,
So you mentioned 25 people on average, so that's including these types of activities for charity that you perform?
Usually Heart of Community stuff is like in the afternoon. It doesn't go into the evening. We cater to a lot of the elderly people. A lot of our members are, retired.
Okay. Any other question?
Well, a lot of the comments that we have in our packet here.
I've seen them.
There's a lot of concern that that you're bringing in a venue for a bacchanalia. And you've already talked about that. You've had 2 police visits in your history.
One was a death and one was a medical emergency.
Yeah. So anything else that you'd like to add about to alleviate those concerns?
I think the fact that it's a closed club means you're not getting people we don't know when they're drinking. And Maplewood's very tight on drunk driving, so we don't really have a whole lot of drunk driving going on either. People are afraid to drive nowadays. But nice place to come and meet, it's all your friends there. I'm surprised more people don't join, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Question. Any chance you might be increasing your membership?
I'm hoping so. We have all these elderly people around us. I'd love to get them there for lunches and for, dancing and, I want to be, I want to be the lightning rod. I want to be the lightning rod for the neighborhood. I do.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm asking is that there will be, limitation on the building that you're trying to
Well,
build.
correct.
So
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, not to be, mean, but we are losing members rather rapidly. The majority of our group is over 70. So I mean, we are losing members. That's why we're kind of downsizing also.
And then you're going to get more.
Well, that's what we'd like to. And the city approached me a couple years ago about buying our property in 1946. They want it bad, so we're here today, kind of. They brought this piece of land up for us to look at, and it works out for us, our size and everything.
Okay. Any other questions? None?
No?
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak about the Moose Lodge request here? Please come up here, sign in, give us your name, please.
I'm not going to be a member.
My name is David, David Bartol. I live at Cardinal, excuse me, at Cardinal Point. I've lived in Maplewood for 35 years, a long-term resident, you might say. We've been, there's 155 people live at Cardinal Point. And the average age is, we're a rather mature group. Average age is 83. So, that's what we are. They're active, they're concerned about their community. In the last few years, there has been some other development. One development was to the south of us, the southeast. The Health East, and the thing that didn't bother, what we worked out there is that's mostly an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's a very attractive building, and they worked with us on screening. There's an 8-foot berm on the edge of the parking lot to our land, and it's heavily landscaped, 8-foot staggered conifers, and eventually that will really do the job. So that was the first one. The other one was the apartment complex next to Costco. There again, it's a residential. It wasn't a big concern. We see part of it, but it's compatible. Now, this third one is a little bit different. This is a commercial usage. In a sense, no matter how you look at it, one of the main functions is it's a bar. And does that fit in a residential area? That's a question mark, and that's why I think we're going through this conditional use process. I looked at the plans. I'm an engineer, and there were a lot of it was very sketchy, and I think I talked to Mike about it. I've seen the city a couple times, and I've spent some time looking into this. We decided, people came to me, they expressed their concern. So we had a meeting, and we talked about it. And when you see that letter in your packet, if you've seen it in comments, it was towards the end. 55, I said, only sign it if you agree to these things, and I put down the things that we agreed. So that particular packet is the same as having 55 letters sent to you. It weighs a lot more than just one citizen. We did it for ease, and all their names, phone numbers are on there. They're all legitimate. So, and the board of directors of the Cardinal Point also unanimously approved. And we have the most at stake at this. It's adjacent to our property, and we have some concerns, which I'm going to go over some of them. The first is, let me say that Moose is a good organization. They could be good neighbors in the right place. But there's some conditions that it really needs to accomplish. And I feel it even more so now after that design and review committee. I was a little bit surprised at some of the comments there. First thing is, I wanted to straighten out is, they did have a meeting they called that happened to be the night of that great big snowstorm. So of course nobody showed up. They're 83 years old on the average, and it was never rescheduled. So we had no communication with the Moose Lodge. I think you neglected to say, to follow up on that, Mike, as far as rescheduling or explaining in your comments about that problem. That's why. It's not the interest. It's not the interest that we didn't have. We were interested. Now, if you allude to my letter, which it's from me, but I'm just a member, I'm not. And first, I think you need more time on this, now in particular. One thing that really disturbed me is when Gary was kind enough to come out and meet with us. And we were talking, and one of the questions I asked is, you have 46 parking stalls here. Now, what kind of parking need do you have? I mean, there's 46. We don't want any parking on the street. And he said that they would limit. He said, how are you going to handle that? He said, we will limit it. We will not book small parties. Yet at the meeting here, before this meeting, he said they would book up the parties up to 150. Now, 150 people come there for a party. I don't think 46 stalls are going to be enough. That shook me up a little bit. Because with that, they're going to be parking on the street. And that's a residential area. And if they don't park on the street, now they're calling for additional parking on the site. That would be underneath the poles. Well, again, it gets us closer to our place. And there's more lights coming in. That's one of our concerns with the screening. So I think that has to be thought out. Another point is architectural appearance. Let's face it, it's a pole barn. I mean, that word was alluded to in the review board. It's a metal building. You don't see those details because they're not shown on this plan. But it's a metal roof. Those are panels. There's going to be metal sides, I presume, with these panels stuck to it. Now look around us first look at Cardinal Point. Cardinal Point, I don't know what you think, but it's a nice looking building. It's 20 years old, but architecturally, it's not a pole barn by any means.
Just might want to point out that we don't deal with the design on this board here. That would be the Community Design Review Board, so.
Right,
We
but-
have no effect on the design.
Okay, let's call this appearance.
We don't deal with that either.
Okay, but I don't get a chance to speak at the council meeting, do I?
You can, you can speak at the council meeting, I'm sure, but
Mike said that's not open.
Chair and Commission, what Mr. Bartle was actually told is that it's at the mayor's discretion to who they let speak. So, and I also told the speaker that often the mayor does, but it is the council and the mayor's discretion. So that was representative of our
But
conversation.
the fact is, I may never get a chance to say anything. And I wasn't allowed on this wasn't, the design review board wasn't open meeting, so I couldn't say anything there. So I'm saying it here, appearance, and its appearance.
still, we can't deal with that here. That's not our purview. Yeah.
Okay, but you can turn down the.
Not
no.
based on appearance.
Okay, we got other issues, believe me.
Okay.
Okay.
I
The
think
planning,
we should
the
deal with
plan,
those issues then.
okay. Who does deal then with appearance?
Community Design Review Board.
But they don't have an open meeting.
You can still talk to people on the city council.
Then
Yeah.
so.
Their numbers are on the county, city website.
including
Okay.
the mayor.
Yep.
Okay, I will do that. The other issue is screening. Can we talk about screening? I mean, that's an important part of it, is screening the headlights from the cars. On the south of us, we have the Southeast Health East building. They had a 6-foot-high berm and those trees. We would like to see that put in the recommendations. It's part of what the people were concerned with. The last issue is hours, and another one of our members is going to talk to that. I also was reminded that they, like, for instance, trash. He had a trash, where's the trash enclosure? A question was asked, and they didn't have it. They said, we're going to put it somewhere. I think there needs to be some postponement here. There's a lot of details that are not put down. And one of the biggest issues I have is screening and parking. If they're gonna book big parties, and I think he said 7 a month, they book a big wedding party in a residential neighborhood. Where are they gonna park the cars? The noise. There's children living in the neighborhood, you know, the cars that are coming out of the parking lot after having a few drinks. That I thought was skipped over, and it's a very important component, because if they're gonna want more parking, they're gonna put it towards our building again. So here you've got your wall to screen it, and now they're gonna tear that down and put more parking in another wall. I think that some of these details are really important, because they affect the neighborhood, and that's why we're going for a conditional use permit. Those are the main comments. Thank you for listening to me. And now Sterling Music is going to talk about his very strong concern about the hours of business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sterling McCusick, and I live in Cardinal Point in Unit 132, which is on the far north end and is one of the units most affected by the building of an operation of the Moose Lodge. I'm just going to read a statement, and it'll shorten the whole thing that I have to say. At the outset, I would like to say that we recognize the Moose Lodge has the right to purchase land and build a new facility pursuant to the laws and regulations of the city of Maplewood. We do want, however, to hopefully ensure that the lives and investments of the residents of Cardinal Point are not unfairly impacted. We desire a working friendship with the Moose Lodge members and management, and we hope that friendship is returned. Remember, friendship is a two-way street. I know very little about the Moose Lodge, although my wife and I once lived for 7 years about 10 miles north of the large Moose Heart facility in Illinois. I did visit Moose Heart on business on 2 occasions and have never heard any adverse comments about the organization in Illinois. Cardinal Point opened for operation in 1999. We still have 20 residents who became residents as pioneers. It is unique in that it is a senior cooperative designed for active seniors. We are all tax-paying residents of the city of Maplewood. We are a senior cooperative where all residents pay substantial funds to own shares in the cooperative, and unlike rental apartments, we do not have the ability to move at the end of the month or at the end of a lease if something might disturb our way of life. We must wait, we must wait to move until our unit is sold to another buyer to be able to recoup our investment. We include residents of all variety, including several World War II veterans, as well as numerous Korean War veterans. Our veterans include nurses who served in military hospitals. I wish to comment concerning the business hours of the Moose Lodge. I have researched the website of the Maplewood Moose Lodge and found no definite closing hour shown, although I have been told it is 11 p.m. I believe in the best interest of the residents of Cardinal Point and others living close by in the neighborhood that all activities should end by at least 10 p.m. I know that the Moose Lodge rental of their facility for public functions, such as wedding receptions or other celebrations, is considered necessary for their financial well-being. However, from personal observations at similar events I know that they tend to frequently last much longer than intended, and this would be of great inconvenience to our residents. On a personal note, I will be 90 years of age in a few months. My spouse, for over 68 years, is only a year and a half behind me in age. I am a Purple Heart veteran of the Korean War. I served, I served 13 years in the Marine Corps and Marine Corps Reserve. During that time, I accumulated multiple disabilities, and my spouse has disabilities of a different nature. Like all older senior citizens, we tend to develop a regimen to help us cope with our problems. As with most, we try to have a healthy diet, take our meds, and get enough sleep. We retire for the night at 10 p.m., and this has greatly helped us through the years to not become a burden on our family or society. We strongly urge the Moose Lodge Management and the City of Maplewood Planning Commission to agree to a 10 p.m. closing hour for all activities on a 7-day-a-week basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Last call. Anybody else? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Staff, was there capacity at all discussed on this building?
Chair and Commission, no, we reviewed from a square footage, but we have not received an occupant load. You know, if we received an application for a standalone event center with an occupant load of 150, as that number was bantered tonight, that would require 38 spaces for parking based on city ordinance. So again, the different ways we've reviewed this building, we don't feel that initially parking's an issue. They're meeting the city code, but that's why we wanted to build in that extra layer. If parking did develop to be an issue, that we would have the conditional use permit as an instrument to have the applicant add additional parking.
Okay, and you mentioned before about a proof of parking, and that does not involve removing any screening.
Chair and Commission.
Is that correct? If they had to.
Not in of itself. I mean, if there's screening in place where a parking lot would be extended to, they would remove that, but the same conditions would move forward and still apply. We would
So
still be looking to screen any parking
Okay.
that would be added, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the staff? Barring none, is there a motion?
First off, before we move to a motion, I guess I want to say that the city staff have put in that there would be a berm or a fence or something to screen the property to the south with 80% opaqueness. So that's a pretty good screening between Moose Lodge and the property to the south. So that's a requirement of this. So I believe some of your concerns will be addressed just by the process that the city follows in approving this. That's why the conditional use permit is a good instrument for this. So I just wanted to make that comment.
And even the trash enclosure is listed here. So that's also covered, so.
We did discuss that in CDRB.
You did already?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a lot of the questions that were raised have been addressed. It's just the hours are something that, again, Planning Commission does not have purview over the hours of that building. So that's not for us to make that decision on. That'll be up to the city council. Okay, so is that a motion?
I would like to move that we move or approve the conditional use permit for the Moose Lodge as outlined in our exhibit from the city staff.
And Section A for the motion? Okay. Fred has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from John. Barring any questions, all those in favor of approving the conditional use permit for Maplewood Moose Lodge, 3033 Hazelwood Street North, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays, the motion carries. It's going to the city council on June 10th as well.
That is correct, Chair and Commission, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Since the new business has been removed from the agenda, we will be looking at unfinished business. Any unfinished business today?
Chair and Commission, staff does not have any unfinished business for you.
Okay, good. Any visitor presentations? No visitor presentations, okay. Commission presentations, 9A, March 25th, 2019, City Council meeting. Commissioner Yang was supposed to have represented us, and there was a wetland buffer variance resolution and a wetland buffer variance resolution, two different addresses.
Yep.
Mr. Yang, any updates on that?
I and an ENR representative, commissioner, was present, and they had the same approvals, and we both recommended to the city council for approval, and city council did approve those variances.
Okay, great, thank you. Item number B is a June 10th City Council meeting. Commissioner Dam, are you going to be able to attend that? Okay, that's good. We already talked about the two agenda items that are on our agenda today. Okay, we will go on to item number 10, staff presentations.
Chair and Commission, I just want to take a quick moment and introduce the Planning Commission to our new Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson. I believe we're on week 3 of Jeff being on board, so if Jeff has a few things he'd like to address the Planning Commission, but I just wanted to make sure you knew who was sitting here.
Sure.
As we went through the items
Yep,
tonight.
welcome.
So.
Yeah, Chair and Commissioners, just happy to be here and start my work here in Maplewood. As Mike referenced, I've been here for 3 weeks. There's a lot going on in Maplewood, so I've spent most of my time being a good learner and listener, trying to just understand the good work that's occurring within the department and the city and getting to know the people in the community. So looking forward to working with all of you and the council and the community at large. So, and I'm a resource if you need anything. I know Mike's your main contact, but I'm happy to be here to help you in any way that I can, so.
Are you coming from another city, Jeff?
I am. My recent position, I was the Director of Planning and Building for the City of Wayzata in the West Metro. And before that, I spent about 10 years at the City of Minnetonka, working in similar issues to Maplewood in regional mall redevelopment, transit projects, infill redevelopment for a community that was fully developed and seeing redevelopment. So a lot of what's in Maplewood is familiar to me from a professional perspective, but a lot of new challenges to face as well, which is what excites me. So.
That's good. Thank you.
Nothing further for you tonight.
Nothing
Thank
further?
you.
All right, then we shall adjourn the Planning Commission meeting at 8:10 PM. Thank you, folks.